Well, you're with Chat City, Preston FM 103.2. We're now on Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So thank you for your company. And we're going to be having a look at modern day Scouts now, because I was saying earlier that it's hard to imagine that a modern youth movement that today spans the world and has millions of members has its origins in bygone era of empire and far-flung outposts of southern Africa, and I'm referring to the Scouts. And there are only 5 countries in the world that do not have scouting, and those 5 countries are China, Cuba, Laos, North Korea and Andorra. And did you know that David Bowie's first public musical performance was at a scout camp on the Isle of Wight in 1958? David Bowie accompanied his friend George Underwood on the ukulele, while George played washboard bass and sang. And we're commemorating World War I today, but during World War II, over 50,000 scouts trained to undertake national war service, and the jobs included acting as police messengers, firemen, stretcher bearers, and also looking after people who were wounded and tending the sick and injured. So there you are, some facts about the Scouts. And in the studio, it's lovely to welcome Andrew Hobson and Jane Poter, and they're from Preston District Scouts. So a very good afternoon to you.
Hello.
Afternoon.
Lovely to meet you. So from those days then, and we're going to be talking about a couple of things really around Scouts. One is volunteering and the other is modern day Scouts. So let's start with modern day Scouts. I mean, for people who are listening and from the days that I remember the Scouts, which is many, many years ago, how different is modern day Scouting then? Andrew, if I could come to you for that one.
I think Scouts has changed a lot over the last, particularly the last decade. You've seen big changes in Scouting. One thing that still surprises people is that we now have girls in Scouting as well as boys. Lots of people still think of us as the Boy Scouts. And it's right that we do change. It's a Scout movement. It's supposed to change with the times. And it's about preparing young people to be citizens in the modern world. So the skills that they need are the skills for today's society. And it's about them having fun. Being able to experience lots of different adventures, and we know through surveys that we've done that this is the sort of activities, adventurous activities that young people particularly want to do, and also challenging them, stretching them, developing their skills in new ways. And
I mean, that is really good news, because we tend to think of young people being stuck up in their bedrooms with social media and computers. And a few years ago, I mean, Scouting did go through quite a difficult period when not as many people were joining. But I understand there's now waiting lists for young people to join.
There are waiting lists across the UK. In Preston District, we've grown every year for about the last 11 years now. We do an annual census. Preston District Scouts has grown. We've been very proactive in Preston in opening new sections in new groups, and that's where the volunteering theme fits, really, that we need new volunteers to allow us to open new meeting nights. We opened a new group in the city centre in January this year. We're hoping to open a new group in the Brookfield area. So we're trying to develop and grow into areas where we haven't got Scouting to make sure that we don't have those waiting lists, really, and that people are able to join and get the benefit out of Scouting that we want to be able to offer them.
And what are some of the most popular things that... what ages can people become Scouts? I mean, is it still the very young people are Beavers and then move into Scouts, etc.?
That's right, yeah. Beaver Scouts can start from 5 3/4, and then they remain as a young person with the movement all the way up to age 25 now, where we have our own Queen's Scout Award, and we also link that with the Duke of Edinburgh's Award.
And some of the most popular things that they can do in the Scouts, what are the most popular activities these days?
It's definitely the outdoor activities. Yeah. It's about getting outside, it's camping, it is still firelighting. Young people love that type of activity, cooking on fires, but equally caving, climbing, hill walking, water sport type activities, canoeing, sailing.
And what about the number of girls? Are you getting equal numbers these days as those of boys who want to join?
We're around about 20% now of our youth membership is girls, and I think that's growing over time as well.
And the awards that people can get these days, what are kind of awards are there within the Scouts?
Got a massive variety of awards now. We have our Challenge Awards, and there's a main award for each section from the Beavers, Cubs, Scouts. But there's also a very wide range of activity badges, which start with the youth sections, maybe something like caring for my pets, running through to aviation type activities, water activities, different levels of qualification in those, and also recognising achievements. So I think one of the great badges we have is the Nights Away badge, which is a staged activity badge for us. So you get a badge when you've completed 5 nights away from home, another badge at 10, and they go on. And originally they only went up to 50, and they've now had to extend that massively into the hundreds now, because some young people are spending a long time away from home and enjoying those nights away experiences.
And I was reading last night when I was looking at the programme today, quite a lot of comments from young people who were saying how being a member of the Scouts has helped them with their self-esteem and how they feel comfortable in relationships and also particularly at school. Lots of young people, comments I was looking at, were struggling at school, and they thought that being part of the Scouts would really help them be able to cope with situations that previously they'd found difficult.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, it's very much about being young person led, looking at what the young people want to get out of it, and making sure that we as adult volunteers are offering the programme and activities that they want, but allowing young people to take a lead as well. It's not about the adults deciding everything, doing everything for them. It's about saying, you have a go at making breakfast, and if it doesn't work out, well, never mind, it's not the end of the world, but at least you've tried it. And for a lot of young people, I can remember teaching a scout how to use a tin opener. Never been away from home, never been in the kitchen before, never used a tin opener, and there was a new skill that at some stage he's bound to need, isn't he?
That's right, yes. That's one that takes me back, I can tell you. What about, the fact that people who join the Scouts these days, I mean, sometimes it is the first time that they have been away from home, so it does give that level of independence, doesn't it? And for a lot of young people, it must be the first time that probably they may have been out in the countryside, or they take a new interest in what they want to do in the future.
I think that can be true in cases, yeah. For our Beaver Scouts, under our rules, we only do 1 night away from home, so we take them somewhere relatively local, take them away for 1 night, they spend that 1 night away, and then we build and develop that as they grow up as young people. Cub Scouts, staying away for more than 1 night. Preston Scouts, which is the 11 to 14-year-olds, were away for 10 days in Guernsey last summer. And then we've got international experiences for the older age range of Scouts, going to places like Peru, Uganda, Cambodia next year. So it's all about developing and moving on in a way that's appropriate to the age of the young person.
And what about, lots of people listening probably will remember things like Bob a Job Day and that kind of thing. Is there still a lot of voluntary work done by Scouts and a lot of work undertaken out there? I think Jane wants to answer that one. Come in, Jane.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a particular example of something that I know happened recently. One of the leaders came to see me, and she sent me an email about some work that the group were doing, clearing the woods. And they were working with the Friends of the Woods. I think it was in Penwitham that they were working, and they were having fun clearing the woods, but they were also contributing to the community. So it was bringing those two things together. They'd had a great day. It was a family day, so there was the Scouts of all the different ages, their families. They were all getting involved. There were younger children who were getting involved as well, who were saying they couldn't wait to be able to be 5 3/4 and be able to join the Beavers, and they were having a great time, but they were contributing at the same time. So I think a lot of what happens is providing sort of community links, working within the community in a way which both the Scouts benefit and the community can benefit.
And Jane, you're a volunteer. How long have you been a volunteer with us? And why did you become a volunteer?
Not very long. And it's Andrew's fault that I'm a volunteer.
Yeah, we can blame him then. Okay.
We can blame Andrew. he knew that I was looking for a volunteering opportunity, shall we say, and he also knows me well enough to know that I wouldn't be probably cut out to be a scout leader. I don't really do camping and rain and things like that. However, volunteering in the Scouts, there are lots of different skills that people can bring to it. So Andrew knows I can talk the hind legs of a donkey. So he asked me if I'd be interested in getting involved in the media side of the scouting organisation. So that's one of the areas. There's lots of different areas that people can get involved in. If people have particular skills, one-off type skills, if they're particularly good at baking, they can come in and do a baking class. Or if somebody's got a particular skill that relates to a particular badge. I know there was a group of Beaver Scouts who went out recently, and they had a night away. They did all the things that Andrew was talking about, but a guy came in and showed them how to do chainsaw carving. And it was a volunteer, just a short session, which was tremendously popular as far as I can gather. And I think it was, for me, the reason I wanted to get involved was Andrew gave me a really good sales pitch. He told me a lot of what he's just told you about how the Scouts are moving forward. It's a very inclusive sort of organisation now, as far as I understand it. When I was young, the Scouts was a boys' club. And the boys went to Scouts and the girls went to Girl Guides, and the two never joined up together. And I didn't think I'd ever have anything to do with the Scouts until I was old enough to need one to help me across the road. But it's a different world. It really is a very different world. And I was inspired by some of the stories that Andrew was able to tell me about the things that they were doing with the young people. And the all-inclusiveness with the girls being involved as well. And also a lot of work with special needs groups. I mean, there's a specific special needs group within Preston at Tom Finney Community High, which encourages both able-bodied and wheelchair users into the same group. And they also cater for moderate to severe learning difficulties within that group. But there's a lot of scope within the other groups around Preston and District as well, so that the young people are able to integrate together in the sort of way, the sort of thing that we've just recently seen at the Commonwealth Games, where we've got the para games mixing in with the elite athletes.
Yes.
And I think it's the world that we live in nowadays. And I think I was very much inspired by the fact that the Scouts seems to be living in the present world. It's developing in a way which fits with our present world and our present culture. And I think that's a very exciting thing.
And as I said right at the beginning, it's nice to know that children are not just on social media all the time, but they're actually wanting to come out and get involved with things.
Yes.
Who can be a volunteer then?
Practically anybody can be a volunteer. Of course, you're working with children in many cases, so there is the necessary checks that go alongside that. However, if you're not working with children, the level of check is less, obviously, because the level of danger to a child is less. But it's really, practically anybody can get involved at whatever level. Also, if people have disabilities of their own, that doesn't necessarily stop them from volunteering, because obviously a volunteer who has a certain disability is much more likely to be able to understand the needs of young people who come along, etc.
So many ways of people then volunteering, as you say,
so.
from people who can maybe be a kind of instructor to people who can support and advise, and many roles out there then.
You get people who maybe volunteer for a one-off session or for 2 hours a month, or spend most of their free time like Andrew does working for the Scouts. But I think every little helps, and apparently I understand that there's something like 37 million hours of voluntary work contributed to the Scouts each year, which is worth a phenomenal amount if that had to be government funded or whatever.
So where can people find out then more about volunteering then, Jane?
Well, basically on the website is probably the best place to go. Now, if you just bear with me, I have actually got...
Scouts.org.uk is the website.
Thank you. And it's join the fun at prestonscouts.org.uk.
Brilliant. So people can find out what they need to know there, and then
there's all
make
sorts of
contact.
There's information for parents, information for children, and information for volunteers.
And Andrew, did you say a new group has just started here in the city?
Yeah, we opened a new group on at the Salvation Army, which is on Harrington Street in Preston near the university. That's open with a Cub Scout section in January, so that's the 8 to 10-year-olds. And then we're hoping that as those young people get older, we'll be putting on a Scout section. We'll be looking for volunteers to do that, and opening a beaver colony in due course as well.
And that's because the recognised need was there. And is it that you need more volunteers, and then more people could join the Scouts?
That's exactly right. Yes, we're looking at areas of Preston where perhaps there isn't a Scout group at the moment. Ideally, we'd like it to be very easy for people to get to them, not to have to jump into a car to drive to a Scout group, that there's one on the doorstep that they can go to. So we're looking at areas where we can open new groups, and we're working with schools and community leaders in those areas to find new volunteers. We provide the training to make that possible, really, for them to volunteer and be able to join in. And looking at the different roles we need, there's the obvious roles of working with the young people, teaching activities, but there's also behind the scenes roles, things like finances, administration, record keeping, maintenance of buildings in some cases where groups have their own headquarters. And all those things come together really to make a Scout group and to make it work for the young people.
And how long have you yourself been in the Scouts?
I joined as a youth member at age 6, and I've continued all the way through. I've been an adult volunteer for the last 13 years or so.
And what is it you enjoy in Scouting? I mean, these days, in your role, what do you like to see? I mean, you stand back and think, wow, that's an achievement when you see the young people.
I think it's seeing young people develop, being able to learn how to do things for themselves, and having great experiences and great memories.
And if there's anyone listening, because of course it's the school holidays, could you give us that website address again where people can have a look and find out more?
The best website to have a look is scouts.org.uk, and we do also have a telephone number that people can call if they're interested in becoming a volunteer or joining as a youth member, which is 01772 977 354.
And have you all just recently been involved? Was it the Red Rose Camp?
That's right. I got back yesterday from the Red Rose Camp, where we were at the Westmoreland Showground near Kendal. We had just over 2,000 people staying there with us for the week from 16 different countries across Europe and even as far away as Ghana. Where they're undertaking a variety of different activities, adventurous ones, water-based activities, even down to things like zorbing, which is giant hamster balls that you can run around in, and as well as a great party atmosphere with discos on in the evening, a Red Rose Got Talent competition where we had young people doing various different acts up on the big stage. Just a superb feeling really about the whole event, and memories that I'm sure people will take away and remember for a long time to come.
And what a great way of building relationships with children from various countries around the world.
That's exactly it. The event was divided up into what we call sub-camps, and we had Danish Scouts and Irish Scouts on our sub-camp. And you learn about their traditions and the differences in their countries. Young people can mix and make new friends in a very friendly environment.
So, Jane, anybody listening out there and they're thinking, I might give that a go, what would you be saying to them?
I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. I think you get a lot out of it. I mean, we talk about what Andrew's talked about, the fact that the scouting organisation needs volunteers, etc. But I think the volunteers get a lot out of it as well. You're part of something which is exciting. It's going somewhere. It's doing really useful, really good things. It's making our community a much more vibrant place.
Okay, well, can I thank you both for coming into the studio today and talking about scouting with us.
For all the latest community news and events, 103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.